The 911 call came in at 2:13 a.m. A woman's voice was shaking, panicked, and breathless. "Please, you have to help me," she cried. "My husband's been shot." When first responders arrived at the luxury penthouse on the Upper West Side, they found 38-year-old Ethan Cole, a prominent criminal defense attorney, lying in a pool of blood beside his desk. His wife, Lila, was kneeling beside him, her silk robe soaked in red. What she said next would ignite a media firestorm and lead to one of the most controversial convictions in New York City history. As we journey through this true crime mystery, tap the like button and subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss a single twist as we unravel what really comes next. By all accounts, Ethan and Lila Cole seemed to have everything. They lived in a 27th-floor Manhattan penthouse overlooking Central Park, drove matching Teslas, and attended the kind of fundraisers where the wine cost more than most people's rent. Ethan was a rising star in the legal world, sharp, charming, and fearless in the courtroom. He'd built his reputation defending high-profile clients accused of fraud, organized crime, and even murder. Colleagues described him as ruthless in litigation but magnetic in person. Lila, 34, was a successful art curator at the Devereux Gallery. Elegant, intelligent, and poised, she often appeared in society pages beside her husband. They were the city's golden couple: power, money, and love wrapped into one perfect image. But that image, police would later say, was nothing more than a polished lie. Behind closed doors, the Coles' marriage had been disintegrating for months. Lila confided in friends that Ethan was controlling, that he tracked her phone, monitored her spending, and once, accidentally, broke her wrist during an argument. Ethan, meanwhile, told colleagues his wife was losing her grip, claiming she drank heavily and had become paranoid, accusing him of infidelity with every female client. In early March 2024, Lila secretly met with a divorce attorney. 2 weeks later, Ethan found out. The night of April 17, 2024, began like any other for the Coles. Surveillance footage later showed Ethan arriving home from work at 9:42 p.m., carrying a leather briefcase and 2 bottles of Merlot. At 10:18 p.m., the couple's housekeeper, Maria Alvarez, left the apartment, saying she'd heard them talking quietly in the kitchen. At 2:13 a.m., Lila called 911. Her voice trembled as she told dispatchers her husband had been shot in his study. When detectives arrived, they found Ethan slumped over his desk, a single bullet wound behind his right ear. A Glock 19 lay on the floor nearby, registered to Lila. There were no signs of forced entry, and no gunshot residue on Ethan's hands. Lila told police she'd woken to the sound of a gunshot. She claimed Ethan had been despondent over a recent case. A client he'd defended had just been convicted of murder, and Ethan blamed himself. "He's been so depressed," she sobbed. I thought he might hurt himself." But detectives noticed something off. Her tears seemed rehearsed. Her robe's silk, pale blue, was covered in blood, yet there was none on her face or hands. And then there was the text message. At 1:57 a.m., just 16 minutes before the 911 call, Ethan's phone received a message from an unknown number. "It's done. Check your email." When investigators checked his inbox, they found a photograph of a woman's face, bruised and swollen. The file name read, payment_due.jpg. The next morning, the NYPD's 23rd Precinct Major Crimes Unit took over the case. Lead Detective Marcus Rayner, a 20-year veteran of the force, immediately suspected foul play. "You don't find a man like Ethan Cole shot execution style in his own home and call it suicide," Rayner told reporters. "Someone wanted him dead." Lila cooperated at first, giving multiple interviews and even attending Ethan's memorial service 2 days later in a black designer dress and oversized sunglasses. But when police examined the penthouse security footage, they made a stunning discovery. At 12:46 a.m., nearly an hour before the shooting, an unidentified man entered the building through the parking garage. He was dressed in black, wearing a baseball cap low over his face. He never exited the building. The doorman claimed he didn't see anyone matching that description leave. Then came another revelation. Lila's phone had been manually reset at 3:02 a.m., less than an hour after calling 911. When detectives retrieved fragments from cloud backups, they uncovered a series of deleted messages exchanged with a contact saved under the name A. The last one read, "He's in his study. Tonight or never." On April 22, 5 days after the murder, police arrested Lila Cole for second-degree murder. Prosecutors claimed she'd conspired with a lover identified as Adrian West, a 29-year-old art dealer from Brooklyn, to kill her husband for money and freedom. According to bank records, Lila had wired Adrian $75,000 in the weeks before the murder, labeling the transactions as art acquisitions. The prosecution's narrative was airtight. Lila wanted out of her marriage. Ethan had a $2 million life insurance policy, naming her as sole beneficiary. She and her lover plotted to have him killed and staged the scene as a suicide. The press devoured the story. The New York Herald ran the headline, "Society Wife, Murderous Life, The Fall of Lila Cole." But there was one problem. No gunshot residue was found on Lila. No trace of Adrian West in the building. And the man seen on camera, the one who entered through the garage, was never identified. During her arraignment, Lila pleaded not guilty, sobbing as she told the court, "I didn't kill my husband. I loved him. Someone else was in that apartment that night." Her defense attorney, Elliot Crane, argued that the NYPD had rushed to judgment, blinded by Lila's wealth and beauty. "Sometimes," he said, "it's easier to frame the wife than admit you lost the real killer." The trial began in October 2024, 6 months after the murder, and the courtroom was packed daily with reporters, gawkers, and true crime fanatics. The prosecution painted a portrait of greed and betrayal. Assistant District Attorney Marsha Lang told the jury, Lila Cole wanted the lifestyle without the man. And when divorce threatened to expose her, she chose the one way out that guaranteed her fortune: murder. She played the deleted text exchange on screen, highlighting the line, "He's in his study. Tonight or never." When asked about it, Lila claimed it wasn't about her husband. She said Adrian had been referring to a private art auction they were planning. The courtroom erupted in laughter. The most damning evidence came from a ballistics expert. The bullet removed from Ethan's skull matched the Glock 19 registered to Lila. She claimed Ethan used it for home defense, but the lack of fingerprints on the weapon raised eyebrows. After a 3-week trial, the jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. They found Lila Cole guilty of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 25 years to life at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. But Detective Rayner wasn't convinced. In an off-record conversation with a local reporter, he admitted, "There's something about this case that doesn't add up. If she pulled the trigger, why reset her phone an hour later? Why no trace of Adrian West anywhere? And who sent Ethan that text?" A year later, in May 2025, a junior tech analyst named Caleb Morales was auditing old case files in the NYPD's Digital Forensics Lab. He stumbled upon a corrupted drive labeled Cole's Secondary Cloud Backup. Inside was a single recovered image, blurry, time-stamped April 16, 2024, 11:42 p.m., the night before the murder. It showed Ethan Cole arguing in his study with another man. The man's face was partially visible, clean-shaven, with a visible scar across his jawline. Facial recognition identified him as Aaron Burke, one of Ethan's former clients. A real estate developer accused of laundering money for a violent organized crime syndicate, the same client Ethan had lost just days before his death. When Detective Rayner tracked Burke down, he had already fled the country 6 months earlier under an assumed name. Then came the biggest revelation of all. Digital tracing of the "It's done. Check your email" message showed it originated from a prepaid phone purchased under an alias registered to Ethan Cole himself. Investigators realized Ethan had been blackmailing his former client, threatening to expose evidence that could tie Burke to multiple murders. In return, Burke had arranged his own form of justice. The mysterious intruder caught on camera that night wasn't Adrian West. It was Aaron Burke's enforcer, a man known only as Mick, seen entering through the service elevator and leaving through a private stairwell minutes after the shot was fired. Ethan had been silenced and Lila had taken the fall. The discovery of the Burke connection blew the case wide open. Rayner immediately contacted the DA's office, demanding the conviction be reviewed. But bureaucratic inertia stalled everything. The DA's office refused to reopen the case without conclusive proof of third-party involvement. Lila's attorney filed an appeal, attaching the recovered footage and metadata, but the motion was denied. By now, Lila had been behind bars for 18 months. Her once perfect posture was gone, her voice quieter. She spent her days painting, refusing interviews, speaking only to her attorney and her sister, Emily. Then, one cold January morning in 2026, a brown envelope arrived at the Manhattan DA's office. No return address. Inside was a single flash drive and a note. "You got the wrong one, M." The footage on the drive was time-stamped 2:12 a.m., seconds before the 911 call. It showed a man in black exiting the Coles penthouse through a stairwell, carrying a silenced pistol. His face, clearly visible this time, matched Aaron Burke's enforcer, Mick. The case was immediately reopened. In March 2026, prosecutors vacated Lila Cole's conviction. After 527 days in prison, she walked free. The media frenzy reignited overnight. Exonerated, the socialite who took the fall. But freedom came with a cost. Ethan's death had destroyed her reputation, her career, and her sense of identity. In her first interview after release, Lila spoke softly, staring off camera. "People ask if I'm angry," she said. "But the truth is, I don't even know who I am anymore." When you're accused of killing the person you loved most, something inside you dies too. Detective Rayner retired later that year, disillusioned by how easily truth had been buried beneath assumption. Aaron Burke and his enforcer were never found. Interpol believes they fled to Eastern Europe under new identities. A year later, on the anniversary of Ethan's death, a small group gathered in Central Park for a quiet memorial. Among them were Lila, her sister Emily, Detective Rayner, and a few of Ethan's former colleagues. No cameras. No headlines. Just silence. Rayner placed a single white rose at the base of a memorial plaque that read, "Ethan Cole, father, friend, and defender of justice." As they stood there, Emily turned to Lila and whispered, "You know he wasn't perfect. But he didn't deserve that." Lila nodded, her eyes fixed on the city skyline. "None of us did," she said. In the distance, the hum of New York traffic carried on indifferent, relentless, eternal. The case of Ethan Cole had become another cautionary tale in a city built on secrets. A story of love, betrayal, and the dangerous illusion of justice. In the end, the truth didn't set Lila Cole free. Evidence. But the damage was already done. A man was dead. A woman was broken. And a justice system meant to protect the innocent had once again chosen the easiest target. Sometimes, in the city that never sleeps, the real crime isn't the murder itself. It's how quickly we decide who's guilty. Join us in unraveling true crime mysteries. Your active participation through likes, comments, and subscriptions is vital. It helps us pursue the truth, shed light on cold cases, bring closure, and ensure accountability. Your engagement is key to solving these complex puzzles.